All right, guys, Troy Francis with another video. Women are chasing the top 20% of guys, and there's a huge problem with that. Those guys, the high-value guys, trademark, are not loyal, are not necessarily going to be, in fact, probably very unlikely to be monogamous, good boys who are doing the right thing. And what's the answer to this? I don't know, but it's certainly something that we need to pay attention to. Now, we know that this is happening. We know this from anecdotal evidence. It gets talked about the whole time. If you look at red pill panel shows, where you get a bunch of girls together and some guys together and we talk about this stuff, you will see the whole time that when women are asked about their preferences as far as men are concerned, it is invariably, well, almost invariably, guys who really fall into the very, very, very top percentile of British or American society. You know, they're looking for the top earners, guys who are earning over 6 figures or even more, top physical fitness, top percentile of height, you know, over 6 foot, significantly over 6 foot in some cases, etc., 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 status, fame, all of these different things. And then you look at the dating apps, right? You look at the data from the dating apps. Now, I don't always believe that dating app data is entirely accurately replicated in real life, but the truth of the matter is that most people now are meeting via online as opposed to in real life, so you know it's very, very relevant. The dating apps will show you that women are swiping past most guys most of the time, and a piece of research recently came out and showed that actually women find, I think it was 80% of men, not only to be not desirable but actually unattractive. You know, they literally found them to be ugly or just, you know, not somebody they would ever consider being intimate with at all. Okay, so again, huge problem. That's a huge problem for the guys who are in that 80%, because what do you do then, right? That's difficult, and that's why there's such a huge market for men's dating coaching, men's lifestyle coaching, you know, advice around all this kind of thing, help around all this kind of thing, because there's a huge problem for dudes. But there's another kind of problem for women, which is, okay, so you are now focusing on this top percentile of guys. These guys are getting all of the action, to be crude about it, okay, or at least they're getting all the attention, they're getting all the offers. Therefore, are these guys realistically gonna want to get serious with you? Okay, are these guys realistically gonna want to engage in any kind of proper relationship with you? And the answer, I'm afraid, most of the time is probably not. All right, it's been said that morality and certainly sexual discipline, let's call it that, sexual discipline is predicated on the options that you have, certainly for men. And if you have no options in the dating marketplace, or very, very, very limited options in the dating marketplace, then by necessity you're gonna kind of be monogamous. You're gonna follow the received morality around this stuff. You're not gonna be having random sex with people because you just don't have the opportunity to do that, right? You don't have the ability to do that. There are no buyers out there in the market. If you are a high value man and you are being bombarded with female attention, and if we're looking at the top percentile, if we're looking at Leonardo DiCaprio or people of that ilk, then the attention that he's getting bombarded with is some of the most beautiful women on the planet. You know, we're talking about professional models, women in their absolute physical prime. If you look at a guy like him, and then you think about, well, what is male nature really? I mean, what is male nature predicated on? Well, and I'm aware that there is some debate over this, but you know, by and large, really, men are designed to spread their seed. You know, men are designed to seek to impregnate as many women as they can. Then going on that biological programming, really, if the guy is not limited by opportunities, that is to say, if the guy has unlimited opportunities, then why isn't he going to go with that, right? Why is he going to become monogamous to one individual woman? And this is why there was so much discourse earlier this year and before in the men's online space about sort of one-sided open relationships, because you would get these very high value men who would appear on podcasts and they would say, look, I am top 1%, right? I'm good looking, I've got the muscles, I've got the money, I've got, you know, a bunch of Bugattis, I've got a bunch of Lambos. I am getting offers left, right and center from attractive women. And so therefore, if I am going to consider a relationship with a woman, and many of these guys do, or with more than one woman, but we'll get into that. If I am going to consider some kind of relationship, then it's going to be on my terms, okay? And those terms are that sometimes, maybe not all the time, maybe we're not talking every night of the week, but sometimes there are going to be occasions where I'm going to want to go and step out, and I'm going to maybe entertain somebody else, and maybe that's just going to be for the night, and it's probably not going to mean very much because guys are very good at separating out sex from emotion. So it may just be literally the physical act and not really anything much beyond that. But nevertheless, this is how it's going to be because I'm the high value man, in inverted commas. And if you're not happy with that, that's fine. You know where the door is. That's the kind of argument. And as I say, if you look at certain stars like the likes of Leonardo DiCaprio, you can see that really taking place in real time. Now, I guess the interesting thing with Leo is that he is, I suppose you might, well, I mean, for all we know, right? I mean, I don't know the intimate, obviously, details of his life any more than anybody else. But, it seems that he is serially monogamous as opposed to necessarily having sex the whole time with random people. Okay, it seems like that. I mean, who knows? So maybe that is more like the middle ground where at the moment he has, because look, there's a couple of things going on here, right? I mean, men, yes, they like the pursuit, they like the hunt, they like the excitement of the new woman in their bed, the new beautiful woman that they're engaging with. Great. But of course, there's always that place for intimacy as well, right? We all kind of want that also to some degree. So then you've got this sort of middle ground of monogamy for a period of time, and then Leo will famously, when she gets to 24, 25 or whatever it is, he will get rid of the get rid of the incumbent and take on a new recruit for the girlfriend role. So there is that sort of middle ground. Now, whether he is then sleeping with other people at the same time, I mean, he may well be, but I don't know that for sure, so I can't really comment. But that is another, I suppose, approach to this. But it's certainly not what many women might want from a high value man, which is you're going to select me and then we are going to be together as a monogamous couple, and that's going to be it. Okay, most guys in this top 20% or this top percentile of men, however much you think it is, are simply not going to want to do that, right? Because they have the options. And yes, you can then start to make the argument, well, they're not really high value guys then, because a really high value guy is going to have that discipline. Okay, a really high value guy is going to make that moral decision for himself to remain faithful to the woman that he's chosen to be with. And if he doesn't do that, then by my definition, and now I'm in character as many women who I've engaged with on podcasts and things before who talk about this stuff, in my definition, he is not a high value man because he hasn't made that decision to remain committed to one individual woman. Well, you're kind of playing semantics at that point, aren't you? I mean, you can define it that way if you want, but the reality is, if you're a man and your drive is very, very much to be promiscuous or at least to be non-monogamous, and you have the ability and the wherewithal to act out on that, then kind of why wouldn't you really? It then becomes this rather moot point about whether that, my imaginary interlocutor would call it a lack of discipline. But you could equally characterize it as just, well, I'm just doing what I want to do with my short life before I shuffle off this mortal coil. So despite the arguments to the contrary, the high value man, that is to say the man who is in demand in the sexual marketplace, the guy who is in demand from all of these women, who's basically in this top 20 percentile, that dude is for the most part, is just going to exercise those options, okay? And as I say, coming back to the main point, this is a problem for the majority of guys who aren't in that group for whatever reason, or not perceived to be in that group, because perception is important here as well, and we can get into what actually makes a high value man. Probably that's for another video, because it's not as straightforward as you think. It's not just money, it's not just looks, it's a combination of things. And status probably trumps everything, by the way. Status in society really, really trumps everything, or fame. Anyway, putting that to one side, if these guys aren't perceived as being in that top 20%, they're fucked, or they're not fucked, as the case may be, because they're not getting any action. But equally, this is very, very bad for the women as well, because, as I said, you're chasing the same guys, you are probably dating the same guys. I mean, Pearl will often make the point on her show, on the pregame, that, when you look at women who've been cheated on, I mean, women, if you ask a group of women, who's been cheated on, most of them will tend to raise their hands, okay? So guys are cheating around a lot, so by definition, they're sleeping with the same dudes, right? Because these dudes are, going between different women. Again, it's this smaller group of guys who are getting all of the play. It's a problem. It's a problem if you are a woman who's going into this, and on the one hand, you've got your standards, you've got your expectations of like, well, hang on a minute, I've got an Instagram account with 63,000 followers, and I get a damn shitload of likes on all of my bikini posts, and I am an attractive woman, so therefore I deserve this. But what you also want, because you're a woman and you have that drive towards domestication and sort of security, at least in the short to medium term, then you also want the guy to hang around, okay? And that's where the shit hits the fan, because these guys, as I said, in the bastardized words of Chris Brown, these guys ain't loyal. Okay, so what are you going to do? And this is where it gets, I think, tricky for women, because as I've said before, the easy off-the-cuff thing to say as a guy talking about dating is just like, well, you women just need to lower your expectations. You know, you need to get real. You need to recognize where you are in the totem pole and maybe cast your eyes a little bit lower. Okay, maybe go for that dude who isn't the 6'7" kind of basketball player, perfect physical condition, loads of money, whatever. You know, maybe not. Don't go for that guy. Maybe just go for a guy who's a little bit, you know, he falls slightly lower in that hierarchy, but you know, he's a good guy. He's got good earning potential. He works hard. He's caring. He's loving. All of those things. Now, of course, the girls are just sitting there like going, "Oh God, I've got the ick. I've got the ick just hearing about this dude. I've got the ick." And that's a very difficult conundrum, right? That's a very difficult Gordian knot to get out of, because I think it's very easy for a content creator to sit here and just say, "Well, lower your expectations. Come on, darling. You know, get real. Get with the program. Just go out with Harry from accounts. You know, it'll be all good." But if the woman's really not feeling that, what do you do? I don't think there's an easy answer to this, but I do think that this has been fueled by modern society and by what's happening with, you know, smartphones, the dating apps, platforms like Instagram. It's just pushing, as I've said before, this sort of female entitlement, this female narcissism, and it's also inflating this female sense of what they believe that they deserve and they can take from the marketplace. And like with anything, you know, I may want to buy a Bugatti, right? I may think I deserve a Bugatti, but if I don't have that money in my bank account, or I don't have access to that credit, I'm not getting a Bugatti anytime soon. And that's kind of the way it is. So I think, again, I'm not expecting people to just change behavior overnight. I don't think it's really realistic, but I think that women who are watching this at least need to be aware of these realities, and they at least need to think, okay, so if I'm going for this type of dude, okay, and this has ended badly for me before because, you know, I've been with a guy like this before and he ended up cheating on me, or, you know, I found out months later that he was sleeping with a load of other girls and I didn't know, or I was part of this rotation, I didn't know, whatever. I think if this has happened to you previously and you keep going for those same kind of guys, at some point you're going to have to think to yourself, well, hang on a minute, is this the actual outcome that I want? These may be the dudes that I'm viscerally attracted to, but is it leading me where I want to get to in life? And you know, this is where some sort of compromises may be needed. And I think, look, I mean, I don't want to like sugarcoat this, but I think in my experience as a guy, so I can't speak for women, but in my experience as a guy, I think that if you think about people we're attracted to, right, I think it's almost like concentric circles. Like you've got the circle in the middle. Should I do a diagram? Do a diagram, couldn't I? You've got the circle in the middle and you've got right. You know, that's the bullseye there, okay? That's the absolute, she's my absolute perfect one. And then you've got another concentric circle sort of around here, and it's like, okay, well, the ones in here, yeah, maybe they're not her, but you know, these ones are quite attractive. And then maybe you've got another concentric circle around here, and then it's like, well, you know, she's obviously not hot like that, but maybe that, you know, there's something about her, she's kind of cute, whatever. And sometimes the people who are on this sort of on that rung, or even maybe even another rung, you know, maybe we even do another circle around, like even outside of that, maybe even some of the ones pushing into here, you know, yeah, she's kind of cute, okay, she's maybe not absolutely stunning, but maybe there's something about her. Maybe I could go on a date with her and just sort of see if anything comes from that. Now, again, people are going to be like, no, you're just saying drop my standards, blah, blah, blah. I'm not necessarily. What I'm saying is I believe that there's a sort of a, certainly from my perspective, there's a kind of a concentric circles of attractiveness, okay? And there are people that are sort of, you know, they're on those borderlines, and then when you spend a bit more time with them, and they do genuinely grow, you know, you do genuinely, you sit there. I mean, I was dating a girl a couple of years ago, this girl that I met in Poland, right? She's a Ukrainian girl, and when I first met her, yeah, I thought she was cute. You know, it's kind of, I was walking down the street, I was with a couple of students, she looks at me, I look at her, I think, yeah, she's cute, you know, whatever. I'm gonna go and talk to her. I was with these two students and I wanted to show them, you know, doing an approach, going and talking to the girl, getting her number. So I did that and we talked and I got her phone number, whatever. And anyway, then I messaged her, we went on a date, started seeing each other. And I realized, I was like, oh my God, actually, this girl, she's really, really, you know, she's really hot actually. There's really something about her that I probably didn't quite see at the beginning. And if I'd have just gone on my first instinct of like, yeah, she's all right, I mean, maybe not that great, whatever, move on, I would never have met her and we would never have had that time together, right? So sometimes you do have to give people a chance. And this is speaking as a guy, right? And this is speaking as a guy, you know, guys are known to be quite visually driven, let's say. So maybe there's a little bit of latitude there in your dating repertoire, in your dating expectations. I don't know, just putting it out there. But the reality is, if you're all chasing the same dudes and those dudes aren't loyal to you, it's not going to end well. Don't shoot the messenger. That's just how it is. I can't really sugarcoat it any further than that. Hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel. Speak soon.